I'm going to go ahead, as long as you guys are ready. I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. It is Monday, February 12th, and we are here at a meeting of the Select Board in the training room at the Public Safety Complex in Paxton. So I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. First, we have some updates from town committees and boards. First up is Anita Fenton with the COA. Come on up, Anita.
I apologize in the beginning. I probably will go longer than you would plan, but there are several things that I think it's important I bring
I
up.
wouldn't expect anything less, Anita.
Are you saying I'm verbose? I'm insulted.
No,
Oh, well, anyway, I am verbose. Let me go on.
Just thorough.
The Paxton COA has been in existence since 1975. It is present in the John Bauer Senior Center for 5 days a week. Its mission is to enhance the lives of Paxton senior residents through education, stimulating programs and activities, wellness programs, and guest speakers from all walks of life. The COA offers free use of equipment, including a variety of wheelchairs, walkers, commodes, and canes, and a well-stocked food pantry exists to help seniors maintain a healthy nutritional base. There is also inexpensive lunches prepared by elder services that are served 3 days a week. The COA board is an advisory board consisting of 9 members, 2 or 3 associate members that work in conjunction with the director, and each member is encouraged to participate with at least one program a month actively. Through the continuing efforts of the director, Cindy Love, the COA has become a popular town institution with many seniors taking part in its current programs. Over the last several years, it has made improvements in the building from their donation account, not from the budget or any use of town money. The Friends of the COA also made extensive renovations to the kitchen. And without these improvements, the building would be in a state of extensive disrepair. 2 important upcoming items that I'd like to discuss. The first is a new multimedia art show, which we are going to be presenting in the gallery, in the dining room. It'll start the end of February and go for approximately 2 months. And we're encouraging Paxton residents to submit artwork. It doesn't have to be a painting, it could be pastels, it could be photography or texture and fabric. Because a lot of people have been dealing with a dreary winter, so maybe they've created something they'd like to share. I'll be acting art coordinator, so if they call and leave their name at the COA office, I'll be happy to get back to them because there are forms for them to fill out and we'll discuss what they're bringing. We have like 15 positions that we could display artwork. It all depends on the size and the scope. And so if they want to come in and look at the room when it's open so they can have a vision of what sort of space they will be using, it would help us a lot. Also, they should know the weight, the dimensions of it, because it's all very important in how you handle artwork. And even if they wish to sell their artwork, that is a possibility. Although the COA does not act as a go-between the artist and the buyer, feel free to offer it for sale too. The second item is really interesting. It's a partnership that the COA has with the SCM Elder Bus and the WRTA. People may not realize over the last year, the usage of the COA van has diminished significantly. People are driving later. They have family nearby, so they don't need it as much. And so there isn't a need for this costly van. So the COA director has looked into partnering with Elderbus as a way to let Paxton residents still have curb-to-curb service and maybe even an enhanced amount of time, a lower price for them. And so I don't know much about it, but when I'm done, I'm sure Cindy knows the updates about when it will start and all the parameters. So these are all the good things. Now I'd like to flip the page to something not quite so good. Unfortunately, we have found a continuing problem in the senior center. Obviously, it's the main public building for both community and civic groups to meet and gather, hold their meetings easily. It's a welcoming building, and we wanted to maintain that fact. However, through time, it has turned out that the participants in the building are not always as responsible as we'd like them to be. As you may know, Cindy had the keys changed, the locks were changed in an effort to control access to the building. That unfortunately hasn't worked, and I was much surprised. I assumed you could always buy a key that said, "Do not replicate." However, if you go to Shaw's and other supermarkets, there is now a little machine that says, "Make copies of your key." You cannot control key usage. People sign up with Donna Parsons, as they should, for a meeting on the weekend or the evening, get the key. Unfortunately, people either share with a friend or duplicate the key so that they have a possession and they don't have to run over to see Donna and sign up. This leads to a problem because at any given time, Cindy does not know who is in the building, are they allowed in the building, and worst of all, what state will they leave the building? I have talked to her many mornings, shaking her head, and she say to me, like this morning, right? And she'll say to me, "You will not believe what I found." So in the past, there have been occasions where doors are unlocked, including the outside door. Hall lights are on, the heating system is left on, equipment is damaged. We were given a ping pong table by someone who donated it. It was damaged, so it's unusable. It cannot be repaired. Now Cindy has to worry about getting rid of it. And no one took any responsibility. Other things one thing that makes me nervous, when she came in once, she found both bathrooms, the fan and the lights were on. Now, were they on for days? Is that an electrical problem? Is that a fire hazard? You have the senior center structurally attached to the Paxton Center School. We're talking about a fire hazard that could be really bad for the town. Not just the loss of a 1.25 century old historic building, which contains much of the history of the town, but the damage to that building could lead to the damage of the children's school. So the question is, how do you solve this? Obviously, changing the locks is meaningless. So you can go way overboard and start to use the hotel key system, where you have an entrance to the door with one of those hotel keys which cannot be duplicated. That would be expensive. You can perhaps have a web page so that every week there's a senior center community web page listing everything that's going to happen in that building, that's been approved to happen in that building. Maybe that would encourage people to, oh, I have to be responsible, or they're never going to allow me back in the building, and then where are we going to meet? That's a possibility. Otherwise, I honestly don't know what can be done. I mean, she's tried everything, but she has, when she talks to me on the phone, and it's like, I don't know what to do, and I'll say, I don't know what to do. So who is the liaison on the Board of Selectmen? You, okay. At some point, maybe you could come to one of the board meetings, and we can sit around and try to rehash what is the way. I mean, people need a public building. They can hold their meeting.
Agreed, yeah.
It's obvious, because where else can they meet? And it's important, and it's a wonderful building. It's historical, it's part of the heritage of the town. It should be used, but it should be used responsibly. And so that's what we have to do. There has to be control. So in the week, we have to know who's going to be in it. We don't drive by at 10 o'clock at night and see the lights all on and say, who's in there? And that's happened. So I hate to end on a negative note, but there it is. There's something has to be done. And as I said about the elder bus, Cindy, if you have questions, she's here and will answer them. But other than that, I'm done.
So, Anita, just going back to what you're saying, when you find something wrong in the morning, do you obviously contact Donna and say who's in the building?
I have, Carol.
Yeah, I'm saying that's what you do.
Many
Yeah.
times. I've spoken to Heather about the building, Charlie most recently. I think, Julia, I mentioned
Yep.
it to you.
You did.
And it's not only the keys and what's left on. We're left debris. We're left everyone's remnants of what they don't want in their home. I'll come in on a Monday morning, for example, and whoever was in the building is in front of my office door. I think most importantly, these, the tables, the chairs, everything we maintain. We've painted, we've carpeted.
I understand.
All that. So, and everyone is using the building, and we're finding our tables are broken, like as Anita mentioned, the ping pong. So it is a concern. We've had things taken, we've had, not from the food pantry, but it sounds silly, but hamburgers and hot dogs for a cookout. We've had plants taken, so everything is, it sounds silly, but this is what happens. There's debris, pizza boxes left. We set up for a party or a function the next day. Everything is kind of pushed in the middle of the table. And so, it's our seniors' home. It's the only home they're going to have. And we would hope anyone that would use the building at night would be respectful of that. And we don't expect anything perfect, but.
Well, then for Scott sets
And-
up a room. It's not fair to Scott.
Right.
And that he comes in and his hard work with tables and heavy tables and chairs are now dispersed. And then she comes in, is she supposed to move the heavy tables? Is she supposed to call DPW to help move them? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and not to put Scott on the spot, because he is here. And, Scott will be in touch with me many a weekends or many a days. Do you know who's been in the building? This is what I found, whether it's the downstairs, the heat's on, the doors are open. So not only, myself or Anita, but Scott
So you're
as well.
saying
who's
people are
so-
using it and aren't logging in that they're using it, or?
Well, I think individuals feel they don't need to log in when they come in because it's for senior use. We have a logbook on our entry desk, and it's primarily, we use it for us seniors just to know who's in the building for emergency purposes. So those who are coming in the evening, I don't think they feel, and I didn't expect them to sign
No,
in.
but they should be
Checking with
requesting,
But they
yeah,
could
should be
be.
requesting
Yeah.
the building use through the admin assistant.
And Donna's been very good about it, but there's times that I'll, email her or call, it's like, gee, who's been in the building? And she says, no one that I know of. So, and I know different boards and committees in the past that have had keys, because it's happened recently, will call and say, we can't get into the building, or we can't get into the dining room. And it's like, well, the keys have been changed, you should be getting those from Donna, but they've passed those keys on.
So I have
Outdoor
a
too.
question. How many, and you don't have to answer this tonight, you might have to just walk around and do a survey, this week. But how many doors, different doors, would you want to control?
Well, I think primarily because we just changed the locks, because everyone has a key to the front door, the side door, whatever, the main key to get into the building.
Even the front door? So the front door,
The very front door where the front stairs is, I don't believe there is a key. If there was one at one time, no one knows what it is. It's supposed to lock from the outside, but I've come in on a Friday during the bitter cold weather, not this year, but last year, and if I didn't drive around to the front of the building, I noticed both the front doors were wide open. Now, we're talking like a 10-degree day. So you have the key to that door.
but my question is, how many doors? Because I think there's a fairly easy solution to this.
Well, we got a master key for all the doors in the building. We got a one
Even
master key.
easier than a master key, where it could be changed month to month, and then those are approved to go in would you send an email with the code?
No.
Are you talking a keypad?
Yeah. But how many different ones of those would there be? So there'd be the scout room upstairs,
Well, no one needs
the downstairs, the, you know,
Activity room.
yeah, exactly.
the activity room, the dining room. We don't use the
No.
kitchen because that's
Because I don't want
services.
to make it a situation where you have to change 27 codes every week or
I
every
think the two
month.
main rooms, the activity room and the dining room, because once you're into the building, you can access the downstairs room, basement room.
Okay.
So you wouldn't need a key to get.
But yeah, so, I mean, that information would be helpful, because a keypad where you could, and it would be a little bit of maintenance, where someone you would have to go around, but it's very easy to reprogram a keypad
Yeah.
to get in and get out.
So I would say the two main rooms used. Now, we just received our ADA grant, so with that being said, our door will probably be changed.
Right.
I know that's probably has to go before the historical district to change it to an ADA. That's another, probably another,
But-
sorry, another day, but could that be could that be a keypad to get into
Right.
while
Absolutely
this
could.
work is being done?
And then once a month, you go in and change the code, and those that are approved to enter, right, are sent a new code by email. This is the code this month.
Yeah, but a keypad, you're saying use a keypad?
Yeah. it's
How easy is it to tell your friend what the keypad number
Well,
is?
you would change it, I think,
Once a month,
periodically.
yeah.
Donna would probably have the number,
And
I would
Donna would-
assume, and
What
Yeah.
about having a camera on the door? If the main door, if for a week it records who entered and the time, if there suddenly is a problem, you backtrack and say, I mean, you see it on TV all the time, they're checking the CTCV, and they check who was right there when the problem was initiated.
But if it's
So-
happening in the middle of the night, you don't know when the problem is
Yeah,
initiated.
but the camera would go off
So
before
who's
the
gonna
door
watch
is
the
open.
camera for 12 hours to figure out when that
Well,
happened?
ideally it records. So regardless, I think, we can talk about, there's a lot of different things that we can do that we can talk about outside of the
Right.
course of this meeting
right.
to improve access control to the building, possibly improve, an adherence to semblance of responsibility for the building, such as a policy like we have for this room. And I think we had talked about that already. And then a community calendar, I think, would also be helpful, Anita. I think that's a fantastic idea, so that you can see who's in the room at any particular time.
Right.
And I'm not opposed to the thinking about a camera solution in addition. So let's take this offline. We can have a conversation about this. Carol, certainly as the liaison as well. We can involve Charlie or Heather if, once Heather's back, but I see no issue. And honestly, where the door is likely getting replaced in the fairly short term anyways, it might be the right time to do that anyhow. So I do think there are things that we can do. We certainly don't want people to be cleaning up after others that have been there. That's not appropriate.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we keep everybody's hard work safe when so many people are putting so much effort into making sure that this building is nice.
And let's keep the building safe. That's
For
my
sure.
big worry.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
important.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so I think we can do that. Thank you, Anita. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I don't think I have anybody here from Recreation, do I?
No.
Okay. So next will be Chris. Come on up. Chris is here with the library trustees.
Hello, my name is Christopher Espraduli. I'm the chairman of the board of the library here, the Richard Memorial Library. I'm also a resident here of Paxton at 11 Briarcliff Lane. I have about 5 points to make about what is going on with our library. The biggest one is, of course, we're getting our roof done. As everybody knows, we have been approved, obviously, by the Historic Committee on the changes that need to be made or how the changes should be made. And the roof, thankfully, is almost done without any interruption of services to the library. The workmen have been very clean and have been taking care of the area quite well, and have also have caused least disturbance to the library. Also, Pam has secured a grant for the library for a sensory room in the library, and currently where that's at, we're waiting on some quotes on some on the changes that will need to be made, and also we're waiting on the building inspector to move forward on that project. Our circulation is quite strong with program attendance, greatly attended by seniors and by children. We have fifth grade and second and first grade coming from Paxton Center in the end of February and early March. And the last portion is, as everybody's aware of the car accident that's recently happened there at the library. Thankfully, no one was injured. I know both of the children, they attend Paxton Center School. They're doing well, thankfully. The only damage, thankfully, to the property is the bush, which stopped the car from actually
Saved by the
hitting,
building. Yep.
hitting the library building, which we're so thankful for. So the only damage currently is to some of the lawn, as you can see, the car tracks going up, and as I said, the bush. I believe Pam said that she is working with Donna and other, like an MIA associates and insurance companies to figure out, obviously one of the vehicle owners will be probably paying for some of the damage that has happened. And I believe that there is a police investigation that's involved in that too. So we will be following whatever protocols we need to follow. And as soon as I think we get a quote on exactly the damage, which I believe Pam's working on, they will go ahead and get that processed through. Other than that, the library, as we said, is doing really well. All of our board members, we have a full board, and I believe 3 of our board members will be up for reelection, so myself included. So, and all 3 of us are going to try to
That was my next
run again. So there will be no vacancies currently, hopefully, on the board. So,
Excellent.
and that's all I have to, that's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you,
you.
Chris. Any
Thank
questions
you.
for Chris? No?
No, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
very much.
Thank you.
Glad to hear the building's okay after that.
The pictures, when I first saw it and Pam called me, were like, I thought that he did hit it.
It
when you
looked
look
that
at
way.
Side angle, but thankfully, it literally was like, the bush is here and the car was like, boop, right there. So thankfully, that's the last thing the library needs, is like a big like, oh, the wall is dead now and the car is in there. So thankfully, some magical soul was watching over us. So thank you for your
Thank
time.
you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on to our next items, we have the consent agenda. There are 5 items on here. One of them, I'm just going to adjust a little bit because of the snow we thought was coming. We have a change to the date for number 3, but we will, let me just make sure I have the right date pulled up.
14th.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
It's
the
gonna move
14th.
to
It's
the
going to be
28th.
changed to the 28th, right?
28th, yeah, yep.
28th. Okay. So I will read them. Number 1 is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on January 22nd, 2024. Number 2 is to appoint Emily Benoit, Jonathan Parsons, and Chow Quach as election officers for the term of February 13th, 2024 through August 15th, 2024. Number 3 is a request from Donna Couture to use the training room at the Public Safety Complex on Wednesday, February 28th, 2024 for the Worcester County Collectors Treasurers Association to meet from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Number 4 is to vote to increase the mileage rate for 2024 to 67 cents per mile based on the IRS standard mileage rate, which is up 1.5 cents from 2023. And to approve and sign the warrant for the presidential primary on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Are there any objections to any of the consent items?
Nope.
Hearing none, I will declare that they are all approved, and we will sign at the end. Under new business, we have to review the timeline for the warrant and date for the town meeting. So we should look at that. You should have in your packet a timeline. Okay. Charlie, you want to run us through the?
Sure. The first item would be opening the warrant on February 12th. Capital recommendations to the Select Board would be on March 11th. The warrant would be closed on March 11th. The warrant to Town Council, as articles appear and approved, would go to Town Council. The joint meeting with the Wachusett Regional School District and the Finance Committee would be March 27th. The vote on recommendation for an annual town meeting warrant articles with Select Board, Finance Committee, and Capital Improvement Committee would be April 8th. The typing of the warrant would be completed by April 10th. The warrant would be posted on April 12th. The warrant would go to the printer on the 12th. The printed warrant would be available to upload to the website on April 22nd, and the annual town meeting would be May 6th.
Okay.
Is the joint meeting March 25th, Charlie?
I'm sorry, what?
The joint meeting with Wachusett and FinCom, is it March 25th?
Let's see. I think March 27th, I think. Did I say it wrong? or-
Oh, I have 25th on
We've
that.
got 25th here.
Oh, well, maybe somebody changed it. It was 27th on mine. So the joint meeting with Wachusett is actually the 25th?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we've got
That's
on
what
here.
we have anyways, I don't know. if
This might have been an old.
that's-
Okay,
Okay,
that's fine, I just want, just wanted one of us to know.
okay. So we have two joint meetings, really, March 25th, and then April 8th would also be a joint meeting as well, right? Because we're going to be voting on warrant articles with Select Board, Finance, and Capital. Mark, do you have that on your calendar as well?
I do, but don't we have a Bay Path vocational school? Is that a joint meeting?
Bay Path should
March
be,
11th.
should be coming, yeah, March 11th.
March
Yep,
11th.
right there too. So three, so there's three joint meetings. Yeah, yep. Okay, and this gives us the appropriate time in order to get questions on a ballot. Correct, Charlie? I think those would be due on April 8th, if I remember.
That's correct.
correctly. Okay. All right, good. Any concerns, questions about the timeline for our warrant this year?
So we're closing the warrant on March 11th, so have Capital met yet?
Meeting Thursday.
Thursday, okay,
Okay,
okay.
all right. Yeah, so we don't, we're just getting down there, right?
Yes, that's why I asked.
Getting down to the wire here.
Commonly, it is.
Okay, all right. So with that, I'm going to request a vote to go ahead and open the warrant for the annual town meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. So the warrant is now open. All right. Moving right along. So the next thing we have is to vote to formally accept and sign the revised deed for Olivia Knoll, which been very patient with us, waiting for this to happen. And I do have it, so we're here, we're good to go. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this before we move forward?
Now, this is revised by Town Council?
Has it been reviewed by town
It has
council?
been reviewed, yes.
It's been
Yeah,
reviewed
I
and
said
then
it's
gone to
been-
town meeting,
yeah.
and yeah,
I said
okay.
it's been revised by Town
Yes,
Council.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so all we need to do is vote to sign it and then sign it. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, vote, sign.
All of the things for Olivia Knoll? This is the final step on our end to get this approved. Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye. All right, so I'm gonna sign it. And I'm
Long
passing it down. Okay.
We're not handing this over to them, are we?
I don't think we can. It's a wet,
Exactly,
it's a
okay.
wet version, right? But at least she knows it's been done.
Okay.
So you guys can't hand it over tonight?
I don't believe we have more than one copy.
No, we need to take a copy and keep a record ourselves.
I need to record that like tomorrow.
Is there
There's a copy machine here.
We can probably
Get a
find
copy.
a way to make a copy of
Yeah, I come from far away.
Is anything else
so
what
I
needs to be on
really
it?
have to-
That need to be notarized?
it. Okay. We'll do the best we can to accommodate
I'll
you.
make you a copy
Is
if you
there,
need it.
is Mark in the office?
You're gonna need a recorded copy
He might be,
anyway.
but you know that we've got, hang on, bear with me.
We'll figure it out.
You don't need notarizing, so,
Oh,
but do you want to just, no, it doesn't, it's okay. Just fill it in.
What's today, the 12th? Yeah. Let me,
I will get that for you.
send a quick message.
absolutely.
Asking shall receive. Okay. Okay.
No, sit behind it.
Oh, thank you. All right, so that is all set. So we're just gonna wait for the copy to come back. In the meantime, we can start our discussion number 4, which is the reserve fund transfer that was requested for payment of an invoice for Roselli and Clark. So this is a transfer that had been requested. As you may know, and Carol was at the meeting of the Finance Committee where this was also discussed. This was a transfer request for $3,500 from the reserve fund to the annual town audit fund. And this reason was because we had an RFP that went out for auditing services. Originally, Roselli and Clark had quoted us $18,000. This went out via RFP to see if there was any better prices out there. And Roselli came in at $21,500 with the RFP, so it's a difference of $3,500. And of course, not budgeted for because we set our budgeted amount based on the amount we were previously quoted. So, I will leave it, Carol, do you have anything that you, in particular, having been at the Finance Committee meeting? That
Only
you'd like
that it
to-
was denied at the meeting, but we owe this money to our auditors, and in good faith, I think we should be paying it. We've only paid 18,000 so far. I think that we owe them the full amount as of last December. So I think we should be paying that amount, and we've got no money left in that account to pay it, so we went to reserve, and I think it should go back to finance to fund that.
Okay.
I don't see where else we can get out of our line item.
Right, right. Well, certainly the line item is empty, because the 18,000 has been spent, on the audit, the auditor services, should I say. So there is a balance due of 3,500, which is due and payable to the auditor who, you know,
Then his services.
quoted his services as he should have, as per a request, in a request for procurement. So, Mark, you're here. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you for your opinion and what we can do to resolve this.
Well, if you heard of or watched the the January 31st meeting where we discussed this of the Finance Committee, I certainly had my opinion. I think it's important to note that this entire matter was discussed before the Finance Committee for, I believe, as long as 25 minutes, which traditionally something like this could take 2 or 3 minutes. And as it turns out, when it was put to vote, the motion that was made was to disapprove the request to pay it out of reserve funds. And it was unanimously voted by all of those present. We have a 7-member committee. There were 5 present, 4 as a quorum, and it was unanimously voted not to fund it out of reserve. There were 2 principal reasons, one of which is that it does not, the request that is, does not distinctly meet the definition of the use of a reserve fund, which is for extraordinary and unforeseen purposes. An annual audit done each year, it was not considered by the Finance Committee, and me in particular, as being extraordinary, nor was it unforeseen. So one of the technical reasons is it didn't meet that criteria. The second reason, which weighed heavily in terms of the Finance Committee's position, is that while the budget was being prepared a year ago, when the $18,000 that you just made mention of was budgeted, the town administrator reduced it to $17,000. And they also reduced, for whatever footnote it may mean, diesel fuel at that same meeting. And the Finance Committee, trying to balance, as you three well know, a $300-some-odd-thousand deficit, voted to add to those particular budgets, to increase it to $18,000, which is what it was, and to increase diesel fuel. A subsequent discussion went on in terms of the advice and recommendation of the Finance Committee, of which I was the lead discussion leader on that, was not to go out to bid. There was no reason to go out to bid. You had a formidable CPA firm who was doing a reputable job at a hometown discount of $18,000. And administration was advised, if you do go out, there will be people that will be sent the RFP who will not bid. Don't mean to be unfair, but for us to think that CPA firms are going to beat a path to our door because they want to do our audit is simply not the case. So there will be people that will not respond. Those that respond will be significantly higher than the 18,000. And the incumbent will know that. And in order to be competitive with those other bids, that firm is going to increase their bid as well. So don't do that, because they'll do it for $18,000 if you don't go out to bid. That was good advice from people who know that market, the public accounting market, very well. And exactly as we warned is exactly what happened. There were firms that didn't respond, there were firms that were much higher, and the incumbent, who was higher, was the lower of all of them. So this particular cost that the administration has incurred, in our estimation, was completely avoidable. Didn't have to go out to bid. You were advised not to go out to bid. And now you're coming to the Finance Committee to use its particular funds, that the only thing in the budget that it clearly controls, to pay for a cost that you incurred that we advised you not to incur. And that was a rub to the Finance Committee, and it still is. And that's why we voted it down. And I would submit to you, we said at that particular time, we didn't want to do it. A third reason is that even though technically it doesn't say, spiritually, that fund is for emergent things. And we never know what's going to happen. And today, we got a notice that the town's server is down. And it
Not down
cost
yet, but
at
it
least $6,500. And there's argument as to whether or not that's to repair it and refurbish it. There's argument already taking place as to whether or not it should be a new server. Why put a Band-Aid on it when you can do something else? Not for us to decide.
Yeah.
The point being, what we said on January 31st, that we wanted to reserve the funds for the potential of something like that, 2 weeks later, we absolutely have it. The second thing is, if you drive up and down Pleasant Street, the DPW trucks are at every gas station, every garage in town, being repaired, being fixed. We've still got a lot of winter ahead of us. And the Finance Committee just didn't feel comfortable using this money for a non-emergent, completely avoidable issue to pay for a bill. Now, the argument was made, it's a bill that needs to be paid, and I would submit, as we wrote to the to Donna, who's the one who submitted it, I said, while not allowing for the town's bills to be paid is not, was not, and never is the intent of the Finance Committee, we decline the request to use reserve funds for this. So I think at that January 31st Finance Committee, the mention was made, well, it has to be paid. Yes, it does, but that's not criteria to use reserve fund money, particularly when you were advised not to incur it, not to put yourself in that particular position. Charlie actually made the point that evening, I think fairly, that budget's tight. Our point is, all the more reason for you not to have done what you did, to think that you were gonna get a reduced price when you were advised that you weren't, and you didn't, and you have an increased price, and now you want the Finance Committee to use its funds. I would submit you can bring it back. You only need 4 votes, but there's a couple of votes you won't get if you brought it back 100 times. That's our point. This was avoidable, it shouldn't have been done, and we're suggesting that Board of Selectmen do something.
Like
Come up
what?
with other sources.
Like what?
I don't know, that's your responsibility, Carol, it was your budget, the audit is in the Select Board budget. It's your responsibility to control
where did
it,
we- where
and
did
you
we
did,
put
not wait a minute, let me finish. It's your responsibility, I have the Select Board budget right here, it's in your budget. It's your responsibility to control it, and you did not. And now you're imposing upon the Finance
Oh,
Committee for
let's-
them to
I'm
bail
gonna
it out.
stop
I
you
know,
right there, Mark.
it's always our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop you right there, only because the mere fact that it's in our budget doesn't necessarily mean that we have complete control over that, because we are not the procurement officers for the town. It is this going out to bid and the decision to go out to bid is the responsibility of the person who is the procurement officer of the town, which is based on the town charter. The town charter sets who is the procurement officer, and so we are inclined and have to rely on the person who has taken the training as the procurement officer to be able to do these things.
So let me speak to that. I have the financial management policies which this group oversaw. It says the town administrator shall oversee that process.
So
That
the-
doesn't mean that they act in a vacuum and they appoint the auditor themselves. If that's the case, then that policy should be changed, because the auditor essentially is auditing the town administrator. So he or she should not pick who they like, and that's not what it says. She oversees the process.
So, I'm
The
gonna
final
stop.
selection of the audit firm is the Select Board.
This is something that never came to the select board because we did not have a number of audit firms to choose from until we had received the RFPs back, right? Until we had received the proposals back, and at that point, we had to appoint based on the proposals that we received. But the decision to go out to bid is the responsibility of the procurement officer. That is a town charter responsibility which supersedes any financial management policy, because a town charter is law. Now, barring all of that, because at this point, we cannot go backwards and unincur this bill. We still have $3,500 that needs to be paid. And as much as I understand that the Finance Committee is upset about this, and I don't think you're wrong to be upset, where I think the Finance Committee went wrong here is to hold the reserve fund as a punitive measure against somebody who did something that the Finance Committee didn't want them to do. I don't think,
So I'll go back to you say punitive, I'll go back to the technical definition, okay, not punitive. The first primary issue was extraordinary unforeseen.
so I
It's
can.
It's neither of those.
I can speak to that in a minute, but right now I want to make sure that we understand that the reserve fund should not be held in abeyance because it is, because somebody is upset that their instructions weren't followed by somebody who didn't have to follow their instructions. So that's part of the
Not
issue here.
instructions, Julia, it was advice.
It-
There's a
It's the same
difference.
thing,
There's a difference.
same thing.
No, it's
You can
not.
call, I mean,
It
call
is.
it, you can call it whatever you'd like, right? Whether it's instructions or advice, but the fact that it wasn't followed at the time doesn't mean that the bill doesn't now become due. It's still due. Now, as for the extraordinary and unforeseen part of the definition of reserve, we've talked about that before, where I think that sometimes there is a difference in opinion as to what really is extraordinary and unforeseen. To me, unforeseen is something that you wouldn't have expected at the time that you're setting your budget. At the time we were setting our budget, we expected a value of 18,000. I don't know about the 17,000 issue and how that came into play. However, we were expecting 18,000 because that's what we were originally told. And so I don't think it's inappropriate that 18,000 went into the budget. It's unfortunate, and that's part of what can happen whenever you bid something or whenever you send something out for a request for proposals, is that you can end up in a situation like this. It's a double-edged sword. So the decision was made to go ahead. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in our favor in this particular circumstance. In other circumstances, the decision to go ahead and bid is usually considered beneficial. I think maybe there's a learning opportunity here, right, with regard to this particular situation in this audit and the person who decided to go out to bid. However, we have to get beyond that because we still have a bill. As far as extraordinary and unforeseen, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that this is such that it would be completely out of the purview of the reserve fund. Certainly we can get additional opinions on that if that's necessary, as to whether or not this would meet the need as far as the definition is concerned, and then send it back to finance. And then see what you have to say about it then, if that would be helpful. But I don't know how else we're going to pay the bill.
I would reach out to the CPA firm, which is more advice that I'm giving you as a CPA who bids on cities and towns and school districts and does audits, the same as Roselli and Clark, who knows the market as well as Roselli and Clark. And if I was contacted by you and say this situation has occurred, they technically don't need to be paid until they start the next audit. And I think if you reached out to them and told them the circumstance under which it's being delayed, I think that you'll find them very accommodating in saying, pay me next year. I would make that advice, not in the form of an instruction, but in advice. If I get that call, I would work with the client.
The service has been
And
done
I
this year, though.
I would wait to be paid because you've been a long-standing client. I know I'm going to get paid. There happens to be a technical issue. They're not going to hold up any reporting. The report's already been issued. I think you'll find that they'd be very accommodating, and I think that you'll find 9 out of 10 CPA firms, including my own, would do the same thing. And clearly, Roselli and Clark, I would include amongst that particular group. If I'm wrong, I'd be happy to be corrected, but I think, and I would volunteer to make that call on the board's behalf, to do that, to arrange that, to postpone its payment.
So the service has taken place in this year, so we have to pay the bill this year. Am I right on that, Charlie?
Yeah, we need a 9/10 vote otherwise to pay, out of next year's funds. If I could, I believe that Donna did have some discussion with them and did indicate that we had to go to the reserve fund and find this money. And I think they were willing to wait till the end of the year or toward the end of the year. I think they would like to get it this fiscal year. It's certainly possible that they'd wait till next year, but I think they'd rather have it done within the fiscal year that they billed it for. The other thing, if I could, I'm not sure if we have special wording of the reserve fund in Paxton, calling it the unexpected and extraordinary and unforeseen. Generally, my experience has been it's been unanticipated expenses, and it's unanticipated expenses when you approve the budget. So, for example, when you approved the budget last spring and then went to town meeting, anything after that is sort of unanticipated because you didn't anticipate it at the time. So, the idea that it's an extraordinary and special type thing, unless that's unique to Paxton, that generally isn't the way we look at reserve fund. It's really just any expense that you didn't anticipate at the time you approved the budget for that fiscal year.
That's how I viewed it as well.
Yeah, but when I hold this up, this is not of my creation, of my making. I'm holding up an excerpt from the Finance Committee Handbook, prepared by the Association of Town Finance Committees, of which I was a board member, of which I have actually contributed in an errata way in terms of corrections and suggestions to this report. This has been the definition for about 20 years, for my estimation. So people can have their own interpretation, including the Finance Committee, of what that is meant to say. And we interpret it in terms of its strict definition, which is extraordinary and unforeseen. You and I can debate whether or not it was an extraordinary unforeseen. I've already made my point that an annual audit is not an extraordinary expense. Something unforeseen is a server crashing, or somebody driving their car through the library building. That would be unforeseen, but a recurring annual requirement cost is not unforeseen, and it's not extraordinary.
Well, I'd argue that a portion of it would be seen as unforeseen.
But part of my point that I made a minute ago is academic, because Charlie's already made mention that Don has already reached out to the CPA firm, and as I suspected they would, they're willing to wait.
Well,
So
to the end of this-
wait until the end of the year, and if
Later
at
this year.
at the end of the year, we have not used all the reserve fund, maybe the sentiment of the Finance Committee would be different, but right now, in terms of repairs and maintenance and winter left and servers and the like, we didn't think paying an audit bill, partial audit bill, on an avoidable cost was something that we would dedicate reserve fund money for. That was our position. Unanimous, I might say, again.
Okay,
Couple-
so go ahead, Kurt, go ahead.
Couple questions. I didn't do a budget update, but, so how much is left in reserve funds?
About $33,000.
Okay.
Possibly 6 or 17 might be spent quickly, so now we're down around 16. And we have spent money near the end of the year for other items.
Understood.
Will you have a few minutes after the meeting tonight? Oh, we have an executive, sorry, never mind. I want to make sure that you have all of the correct information about the server issue.
About the server?
Yeah,
I have pretty much, I got the gist of it in an email that
Right, I think
Charlie
you have the same
forwarded.
email that we
Yeah.
all had. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I think we're there.
okay,
Yeah, I believe that with the decision we've made, it'll be the 6,500, not the 17,000.
right, exactly,
I mean,
yeah. That's-
They have the
that's-
same,
that's
quality
appropriate.
capacity. One is refurbished. We get 3 years guarantee out of one and 5 out of the other, life.
Right.
Not a guarantee, but a life. So I believe the decision has been made that that's the most appropriate way to
Correct.
go
Yep.
for the situation we're in.
Yeah, so that'll be the request. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to close the discussion on this matter. I just want to let the record show that at this point, the Finance Committee has chosen not to pay this particular bill, instead recommending that it be held so that the reserve could be preserved later on down the road, or for the rest of the fiscal year anyways, in the event that there is something that might be more urgent. Do you think I summed that up accurately?
I'd add, and the CPA firm has been contacted and they're in agreement with waiting.
They're in agreement
Well,
with
They're
waiting?
not
I'd
agreeing
have
with
to say,
waiting.
I'd have to say that I don't think they were told that it was going to be that long. I think the first conversation that Donnie had was that we had to go get money from reserve fund. So we'll have to look at that. All I know is that
Okay.
they're not looking for it, today or tomorrow, but I do think they expect it, and we'll have to discuss with them. If it is really going to be, say, in May, I mean, when would we consider that we have enough confidence that whatever is left in the reserve fund, we might be able to use?
Right.
Would that be May, do you think?
I would think so.
June 1st.
June 1st?
June 1st. So,
June
we
1st.
could have that discussion and say that we'll revisit this at June 1st and make I think we'd
Yeah.
have to pretty much be able to confirm that we will pay the bill by June 30th, so it is in this fiscal year.
Right.
But I mean, they haven't said it's okay to go that long, but
Right.
you know them better than I do.
Right, yeah, so I do think there's probably another conversation that needs
I
to be
think
had with
probably
Roselli and
will.
Clark.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
nothing that's gonna be decided tonight.
Right,
No, probably not tonight.
Well, let's
Yeah.
have to go out for bid again, because I don't think they'll bid again. They don't get the money on time.
well, that's part of the issue, right?
Mm,
I mean, when you don't pay a
Pay the
bill on
bills.
time,
There's no question that the bill needs to be paid, it just may become incumbent upon us to find another way to do it.
I'd
Not till
invite
May-
you to go ahead
not
and look
till
at the
May.
budget.
Not till
Trust
May.
me, I'm the tree warden, I know, I have nothing,
Not till May,
so.
making the transfers.
Cake sale?
Yeah, so, all right, so we're gonna move on from this. All right.
Just got some old business.
Thank you. I just had to get back to my agenda. Okay. Under old business, we have follow-up on discussion of town signs donated by Gibb Realty. This obviously hasn't happened yet, so just so that nobody misunderstands the agenda item here. To refresh us, Gibbs Realty had come in and, is it Gibb or Gibbs? I think it's Gibbs. Gibb with an S.
Gibbs.
Yeah, so it's Gibbs Realty came in and actually made a suggestion that we consider doing something similar to what the town of Rutland did, where they have essentially a sponsored sign, so it's a welcome to Rutland sign. It's sponsored, Gibbs Realty was a sponsor, and so the thought process is that they would fund the creation of the sign initially, and then thereafter, on a annual or semi-annual basis, we could put that out, and whoever, whatever business would like to consider sponsoring the sign that year, we can make that happen. So we were looking at potentially trying to design a sign, but I think what might be the better option here would be to just go to a sign company and say, look at the Rutland sign, and give us something of similar quality, quote us something of similar quality, and see what the cost is. Because I think, obviously, since Rutland's sign was done, I think costs have increased. That kind of goes without saying with the post-COVID era that we're in right now. And we just want to make sure, before we move forward at all, that we're still good with the number with Gibbs.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion for the next step forward with that. Any other thoughts?
No,
Good idea.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. So, all right.
Have we heard from them since?
Just, I think they called asking about this, which is why it got back on the agenda.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm glad they called. I'm glad they brought it back to our attention so we can work on it. Under correspondence, I just have one item here, which is a congratulations from Maura Healy's office to the Paxton Fire Department. I am pleased to inform you that the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security and the Department of Fire Services has awarded the Town of Paxton Fire Department $10,115.88 in state fiscal year 2024 funding for the Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant Program. So they received a grant. Congratulations to the fire department. I believe this is one that they get every year.
They still have to go out for it, but yeah.
They still have to, there's
believe
still
so,
quite a
yeah.
lot of work involved to get these
Process,
grants.
yeah.
All right.
Part of the auditors of the fire department, so maybe $3,500 can come out of that grant money to pay.
Dreams.
Okay. So, with that, we have an executive session that will be coming up shortly. I just want to make mention of it, that we will be going into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21-3 for collective bargaining for the police union. But before that, we have the town administrator's report.
I thank you. Okay, the first item I have is on the Council on Aging. Cindy and I met with representatives from the WRTA regarding plans to make sure that the transition to the service from, that will be provided by SCM Elderbus is as seamless as possible. Information meetings will be held at Paxton Hills on March 19th at 10:30 a.m. and at the Senior Center on March 20th at 10:30 a.m. And we hope to be able to tape the Senior Center presentation to be able to show it on the cable channel so that people get more comfortable in understanding what's going to go on with that. And as you know, the town also received a $25,733 municipal ADA improvement grant to remove the barriers and improve access to the white building, which Cindy also discussed tonight regarding the change to that door. As far as the DPW, we had a meeting of the DPW Building Committee on February 5th to discuss the potential impact on taxes if the town decided to move forward with the debt exclusion to replace the DPW building. Weston and Sampson, I think I mentioned last time, does have some upcoming bids for similar projects coming up, so that we may get a better idea if there's any change in the current market construction costs. But right now, the estimate for the building is $25 million. And so, based on that, the annual cost for the average single-family home would be, if we did level debt, for the 20 years with conventional financing, would be about $1,100 per year. If we went with a level principal payment, the first year would be roughly $1,400, and then it would drop down to around $766 in the 20th year. And we also did an estimate on the USDA 40-year loan that might still be available if the town wanted to go that way. And it would drop the level debt down to $739 a year for the 40 years, so you do pay a lot more interest, obviously. And the first year cost for the level principal would be $954, and the last year would be $674. So it is a significant cost. Now, in December, the town did receive a $200,000 earmark grant from the state's ARPA funds for designing and constructing a new septic system and adding 2 new restrooms and temporary office space. So one other thing that came out is that when we had the DCR's approval for the work that would be done to construct a new building on the site, they made it clear that no work would be allowed in the present location of the buildings, no additions or anything like that, but that the location closer to Holden Road could be used, and that was what was anticipated for the new building. So we've asked Weston and Sampson to review the estimate that was used in that $200,000 grant to see whether it is accurate for the cost of designing and installing a septic system in a location that would actually serve the new building if we went forward in the future and constructed a new garage on the site. And also to get a current estimate on the cost of modular restrooms and sufficient office space to improve the DPW operations as a stopgap measure until a new facility could be built. So that was the discussion, and hopefully by the time they have the next meeting, they'll get information back from Weston and Sampson on what a project like that would look like. So we'd basically be doing what the grant was intended for, but in a location that would be able to be usable for the new site, for the new building. And then as far as IT services, Julia, Donna, Sean, and I met with Adam Souza and Casey Chisholm of Souza IT to discuss some of the concerns we've had about the work they've been doing and to get a better idea of the IT work that Paxton is facing. And the most pressing needs, and this was last week before we got this new information today, was to enforce the MFA from a town policy perspective, to upgrade the internet to fiber and migrate to Azure and Office 365, and to replace the infrastructure with an enterprise-grade solution, Cisco, HP, Fortinet, etc. So he did provide more of a plan on that, which is what we wanted to have. And then, as we discussed earlier, the potential failure of the old server is becoming more of an urgent issue, and we reviewed the information we had today regarding what can be done in the short term to replace that and get things operational.
The nice thing about that, if I can just pop in, is that replacing the server now, you may be aware ultimately that our plan was to go serverless and move everything to the cloud.
Right.
But part of our discussion with Suzer about the IT issues is that a lot of the IT issues that are happening right now are really stemming from the fact that our current server and infrastructure in place can't handle what we're asking of it. So we're asking it to do an awful lot of things with not a lot of resources. And so this would actually give us some more resources to help prevent some of those issues that are currently pain points town-wide in terms of the IT infrastructure and what we're seeing there with some concerns. So I think that even though the ultimate plan may still be to move to the cloud, this is going to buy us quite a bit of time and reduce the pain in getting there that we're experiencing right now.
Right. And that was, we also have the updated building permits and so forth, so the total number is the same, but some of them have changed. We have more building ones, but that's in the report as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, thank you. All right. So I have public comment. Any public comment?
No.
No, our one member is leaving us. And then we can move into executive session. So I will ask, this has to be done by roll call vote, of course. So I will ask for a motion to move into executive session, returning to regular session, only to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Kirk?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are moving into executive session. Have a little break.